Greetings and welcome to Innovation Management Group's Build-A-Board software. This is the How to Create a Board video, the third video in the Build-A-Board How To video series, after the How To License video. Now that we've installed and licensed Build-A-Board, we can double-click on the icon to launch Build-A-Board. Once in Build-A-Board, you'll see many different sample projects that come along when you install the standard download. This provides boards for Android, Windows CE, Mightysoft Basic, along with all kinds of other layouts, like numeric keypad samples, edit panels, industrial panels, specialty boards, and reference boards. So if you're looking for a particular layout to get started with, you can always select from some of these pre-built samples and then modify or delete keys or add keys as needed. But in this video, we're going to actually have some fun and create a board from scratch. So we're going to go up to the very top and select the new project where we get to enter the size of the board, and we're going to select an 800 by 600 board. And you start with a blank slate. On the upper left, you have a few cursor options. If you click on the plus, your mouse is able to click and drag and create keys of any size. If you click on the arrow cursor, you have the ability to select one or many keys by clicking and dragging. You can delete keys by right-clicking, or you can select several and press the delete key. You can also turn on the grid, and this allows you to align keys to a grid, and there's various options with the grid. One of them is with the plus. You can actually make a whole grid of keys by clicking and dragging with the grid and the plus cursor. To change the grid, you go to the Tools menu or use the shortcut keys, and you can increase or decrease the grid size. So let's change the grid options here. We're going to delete that set and move back to the plus. And by making a key and setting it as the default, we now have a new default key size. And then going back to the grid with the new grid, we'll now get a new set of keys with a different grid spacing and different key size. So let's do a quick review. You can use the select cursor or arrow to select individual keys, or click on the board and then drag to create a rectangle where you can select many keys, for example a whole row or column of keys. You can also then right click on a key to get a menu for various options including properties or to delete a key, etc. The plus cursor is used when you want to create a key of any size, so you can actually then click and drag and make the key any rectangle size you want. With the grid on, with the plus cursor option lets you create a grid of keys by dragging your rectangle larger. And this grid is based on the current key default size and then the grid spacing. To set the key default size, you would create a key so it is the size you want, and then you would right click on it and then select the set as default size option. And this will then be the new default size for any new keys created by adding a key or dragging and dropping a key or using the grid option to create new keys. To toggle grid visibility, you just use the grid button, and when shown you have the option of changing the grid size by using your shortcut keys Shift F4, Shift F3, or from the Tools menu, and when shown, keys will snap to the grid points and makes it easier to align your keys in either columns or rows. So now we want to show using the keys window to drag and drop keys. So we'll use the arrow cursor, highlight and delete the grid, and now we can start dragging and dropping keys from the keys window. We're just going to keep it simple to show an example way of doing this. You can use the different options here to select your alpha keys, number keys, function keys, etc. And you can always select a key and make it larger or smaller as needed. Here we'll make the space bar larger. Okay, so looking at our layout, we realize our board is a little too big. So what we want to do is within the Build-A-Board builder is actually make this board a smaller size. So you can right click on the board and go to Resize Board and actually then punch in the 300 height to make it a smaller board. We do not want to resize the keys. And at this point, we want to make the board look better. We've got keys, we've got the size we want. So what we'll do is we'll highlight keys and actually use the layout menu to align the keys. And you see that you can align the top or left or right or bottom. What you do want to note here is that when you highlight keys, they have either a black border or one has a blue border. And you can change the blue border by holding down the Shift key and clicking on a different key. That blue bordered key is the anchor, and that's what determines what will align to what. So here we're going to align the bottom. Once again, we go to the layout menu, align, and do the top of the keys, and align to the blue highlighted leftmost key. we want to make the keys all just a little bit bigger. So we highlight them all and we can drag them. Now you can see we have a spacing problem. So the way to solve this is to move the 2 left keys to about where we want them and the 2 right keys to the right side of where we want them. Then we want to make sure we align them. So we're just going to highlight a row and use the Control Up arrow and do the same on the bottom row. And then highlight a row. So there's a spacing menu and there's a few different options here. You can space keeping the left and rightmost keys fixed, or you can make even spacing and allow that max or the rightmost key to float so that it's got even spacing. So that's what we'll do. And we'll actually now space out the top row and then do the same with the bottom row. So now that we've aligned and spaced our board, we can look at it and say, well, the fonts are too small. Let's make the key labels easier to see by making the font larger for this board. Right-click on the board and go to the board properties where we can click and set a font for the entire board. You can actually plug in numbers here, but of course it's easier to use the system dialog to dial up and pick fonts. And so we'll look around and you can see there's many fonts available, but we'll pick something pretty straightforward with just an Arial and get some larger point size, click through OK, and then now we've got a much better looking font for our board. So now we want to actually make the keys look better by using key images. So select all and then right click on a key and go to the properties. Then you need to change the frame type to key images and the key type to high res. Now you see everything selected and defaults to the default high res image or 3D shaded key. But when we do the view menu and go into key images, we have a wide selection of different looks and images we can use. And we'll select a dark gray one. Close the key image window. Then looking at the board, we see we've got that dark blue background. So if we actually right click on the board, go into properties, we can actually change the background color. So we'll go to a gray themed color and make our board the way we want it, and it's looking good. So today in this video we walk through creating a board from scratch, making keys with the plus cursor, or actually dragging and dropping keys from the key window, changing the default key size, and then also looking at the layout menu where you can align space keys evenly and make your board look sharp. Finally, we looked at the key images where we could change the look and feel of the board and the keys that are on it. So this wraps up the How to Create a Board video in the Build a Board How To video series. Thanks for joining us. Next video in the series is How to Build a Board.